Hi, this is Kat. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be setting up a November 2024 bullet journal setup for my partner. So it'll be in this B6 journal from Archer and Olive, the Desk Aesthetics collection. And it's a pretty short setup because my partner is not that interested in a daily section or anything like that. So it'll be a pretty straightforward and simple setup, but I'm going to be doing a game night theme and I'll mostly be using 3 materials. So the first are the calligraphs from Archer and Olive, the Attic Treasures collection. I'll also be using this black medium tip marker. And then I'll also be using these sticky adhesive papers. So basically like little post-it notes, but with cute little designs, and I'll be using them as stickers. I recently got these in a shopping trip from Taiwan, and so I'll link that video down in the description box. All right, let's get started. So I started the first page by writing the month of the year, November, using this purple calligraph pen from Archer and Olive. And then I go in with the first design of the removable adhesive paper that I got in Taiwan. And this one is like a movie theater ticket type of design, but it kind of reminded me of arcade tickets, which reminds me of like games and things like that. So that's kind of why I included it. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised by this one because I don't know why I didn't internalize, like it literally says on the product that they have 4 designs in a loop, but I didn't internalize that, so I was really pleasantly surprised when there were multiple colors in this set. Then I go in and I add the little mahjong tiles and I draw some little dice or die. I didn't do it perfectly, it kind of looks a little messy, but it's okay. It's meant to look like a kind of fun, not super perfect setup. And then I add in the pool balls, and I think it looks really fun. I was kind of thinking of adding just like a wash of color for the background to make things pop a little bit more, but I think it turned out okay. And then I think with these adhesive papers, even though they do have a sticky back, I found that I really did have to use a glue stick to glue down the individual pieces, which is totally fine and it was super easy to do. But just interesting and a little bit more high effort than an actual sticker would have been. Then I wanted to add just a little bit more of a pop of color to my November, so I colored it in, and then I don't think it looked super nice here, and so later on I go in with a black medium tip marker just to make the word pop out a little bit more. And then on this next page, I have the monthly goals section. So here, the idea was kind of to create 2 borders that look like a table. And I would then glue the little sticky adhesives that look like a deck of cards on it. So it looks like people are playing cards on this table. But yeah, the monthly goal section is really simple. I left it blank so that my partner could fill it out. And really the idea is just to write out your monthly goals and then leave space after each goal so that you can then go back and reflect on whether or not you reached each of the goals that you set. Overall, I really love how these 2 pages turned out, and I really love the deck of cards and the mahjong tiles. I just think these little stickies are so cute. This next setup is a calendar setup, and it's with a snakes and ladders theme, as you can see here. I was really excited about this one, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So when I set up the calendar, I used a 6x6 dot grid for each of the days of the month. And so I usually start in the middle of the journal and I start counting 6 dot grids from there. So from kind of right to left and then top down to draw it out. And I find that 6 dot grids, like 6x6, is a good amount of space given the size of a B6 notebook so that you can actually write a lot in it or like add stickers and things like that. And it's especially important in this setup because of the snakes and the ladders that are decorating the page. And that's something that if you are interested in this type of setup, you should be careful about, because you want to make sure that the snakes that you're drawing and the ladders that you're drawing are not going to take up so much room in any individual day that you can't actually use that day of the month. So that's something I was trying to be careful with. In terms of a color scheme, I didn't really have anything specific in mind for this month's setup, but I did want to be kind of intentional about mostly only using the Archer & Olive calligraph pens from the Attic Treasures collection, because if you use that one set or any specific calligraph set, the colors will typically go pretty well together. And so if you pick 2 or 3 colors, any random colors, it should look fairly cohesive. And that's kind of what I did here. So I used the green, I used the yellow, and then I used a little bit of the red later on. Another thing that I did to kind of make the page a little bit more exciting, it's simultaneously, I think, a really fun idea, but also kind of simple in a way. Because the page is so big in a B6, there's a lot of white space around the Snakes and Ladder board, and I didn't really want to fill it up with a lot of color or too many designs, because that snake I have in the middle is so big, and also because I wanted to keep the page fairly functional. And I know that my partner likes to write not just in the calendar itself, but also in the spaces outside of the calendar setup. So I wanted to leave some of that blank. And so what I did instead is I kind of colored in the little tiles of the calendar. So I kind of alternated colors between like a blank and then this light gray wash. And then for the start tile and the end tile on both ends of the board, I colored it in with like a really light pink. On this next page, I'm setting up a daily tracking setup, and the decoration for these 2 pages is a Monopoly board. So I also thought that was kind of a fun way to do like a game night theme for a daily tracker. And it's really just for decor, because the Monopoly board itself is not where the function is in the journal setup. But I thought it was really fun, and it was fairly simple to set up. So on either side of the pages, I counted 7 dot grids to show kind of like the width of the board. And then you kind of have to do a little bit of math to work out the dot grids for each of the different tiles, or the properties, if you will, for the board. And then you can kind of go in and color it with the different colors. I don't actually love the way it turned out. Again, I was trying to stick with that like same calligraph set that I have and not dip into anything else so that the color would be more cohesive, but I kind of regret it, because I think where the property tiles are, you know how they have like 2 colors, it's typically like a really light green color, and then the tile of the property set, so like a dark blue or like a dark green. So I like the colors on top, like the dark blue and the dark greens, and so on, but I don't really like that I colored it in pink. I kind of wish I had kept it a little bit more true to a real Monopoly board, so a lighter green would have been really nice. And I actually have a calligraph pen that is a light green, so I kind of regret that, because I don't love the way that it turned out, but it's okay. It's still kind of a fun setup. And what's fun about this Monopoly board setup is that, you know, you can kind of write your own theme around the property tiles itself. So if you live in a specific country, you can, you know, write it out that way. If you traveled this year, you could write out the cities or the countries or the places that you went to as the different property tiles, and it kind of adds like a nice personal touch, if you will, to the setup. But then after I finished doing all of that, which did take some time, I then went in with the daily tracking section, which really was a simple grid where I just wrote out all of the days of the month from 1 to 30, and then I drew out the lines and grids depending on the number of things I wanted to track in that month. And in this final page setup, I wanted to create 2 more pages to leave some blank space for notes or a monthly reflection page, which I know my partner likes to have. And so I decided to go with this pool table setup where I really just have like a big chunky border design at the top of the page. Another way you could have set this up is also doing it smaller on the top, but then also having that same design run through the bottom. But I like the way that this turned out, and the reason why I had it pretty chunky on the top is because the pool table sticky notes were pretty big, as you can see here, and so I wanted to give it enough space so that it actually feels a little bit more like a pool table. But yeah, overall I really like the way that it turned out. I think the little sticky notes are really cute. As you can see, I was super inspired by these adhesive sticky note things. I didn't know they could come in so many different colors and like designs and varieties, and I'm honestly kind of inspired to make like a board game theme or a game night themed setup for my own bullet journal now, but we'll see. And here is a final flip through of the setup. Again, it's a really short setup, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I hope you did too. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.